Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Dayton Commission on Disabilities monthly meeting. Today is the 4th of August, 2022. And first things first, I will let everybody know that this meeting has been recorded and can be viewed later, am I right?
Yes.
On the cable channel and on YouTube as well. We are not live at this point in time. We are hoping to be live in the future at another date, but today we are recorded, and after you listen to the recording or look at the recording, if you have any input or anything, please reach out to me, Jonathan Gale, the ADA coordinator for the town of Dayton, and I welcome your input. You can reach me by email through the town, or when you go to the town's email, you will also see my telephone number, which is 774-872-0924, and that's how to reach me through the town. So I will begin first by asking everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very, very much. If we, next thing on the agenda will be introductions. And as I said, my name is Jonathan Gale. I'm the ADA coordinator for the town of Dayton and the chairperson of the ADA Commission. And then we have Ken.
Ken Pacheco, the Board of Selectmen's liaison for the Commission on Disability.
Kevin.
Kevin Smith, member.
Nicole.
Nicole Mello, member.
And that makes up our commission. We do have open slots on the commission. I'll add that in right now. If anybody who is, again, looking or listening decides in the future that you would like to be a member of our commission, please drop us a note. We would love to have a conversation with you, and we welcome anyone who is a resident of the town of Dayton to participate potentially as a member of the Commission on Disability. The next item on our agenda is
update on MOD project grant status.
So
all business.
Thank you. So as everyone knows, who's here, and many people in the public know, the grant for the Mass Office on Disabilities closed as of June 30th. I think we're all very, very happy and proud to say that we've accomplished a lot with the grant. We actually brought the grant in under budget by a small amount, very small amount actually, but we did come in under budget. That's partly due to the fiscal management of the town of Dayton and the way everything was put together, and due to the in-kind work that was done by several departments, including a lot of work done by the highway department. So thank you, Tom Ferry, and everybody involved in that. Not to mention also Jim Aguiar, the building commissioner, was very involved in parts of the project as well, for the restrooms at Town Hall that are now completed, the walkways that are completed at Town Hall, the walkways for the parks. I could go into the whole list. What you will find also, the last part of the project to finish will be the town's new website, which will be launched as of September 19th, which will be, we hope, a fully accessible or 90+% accessible website. Is there anything that Kevin or Ken or Nicole you'd like to add to the grant information that I might have missed?
I don't know.
Just that towards the end, we were able to get some additional grass mats due to, you know, how, like you said, we were pretty fiscally responsible and did our best to keep it under budget. So we were able to get a few more grass mats, which kind of helps Parks and Rec big time, and it also helps us be able to loan them out when we do have events. So that was kind of a nice little thing towards the end that helped us close it out.
Nicole, do you have anything?
No.
I hope it's the first of many different types of grants to come in the future for everything ADA one way or another in our town. There is another grant cycle for the Mass Office of Disability that just came out. I don't think we can go to the well 2 years in a row for this one. And we are in the process of beginning to look at other types of grants that we can potentially put in for in the near future. So again, thank you to everybody in the town who participated from the different departments, and thank you to the public for your understanding and patience. And we hope you all appreciate the access to parks and to town hall and to other places in town that are now as a result of the grant being completed. And our next item.
Community garden.
Community garden, do you have any update specifically or? where things are?
I still, to this day, have not been able to get over there. It's been, like, especially recently, it's just been so crazy hot that. But one thing I think, so I know that you guys have always said that, like, if we're gonna go down there, that you'd all reach out, that you, in order to reach out, that you would help.
Yep.
Wrap it up. But also too, I have a group of Girl Scouts who have been helping with park stuff that need community service hours. So that's like another avenue. Not so much for, I'm not having to shovel stone dust, but you know, with setting the mats and cable tying them together and stuff, I know they would help, and two, it'd kind of be a good learning experience for them, because we talked about even installing some of the grass mats for the playgrounds, just so they kind of understand what we're doing, make it accessible. So maybe I can probably pull them in. I know they have some Saturdays in August that they're available if they wanted to do some volunteer hours. So maybe we can forecast and all plan ahead and get together. Maybe if we can get ourselves and a couple other adults, it'll probably take us an hour and a half to wrap it up.
Okay, I know I can certainly ask my two teenagers once they come back from camp after the 12th, and I can send an email out and I'll CC you as well to the Girl Scouts and just ask them if it would be possible for an hour or two at a time.
Yeah, they just sent me some dates that they're available after my parks meeting on Tuesday.
Yep.
So I'll send that out to everybody and just see if we can all like agree on a Saturday or Sunday or something for an hour or two and just get it.
Or even if they can do an evening or something, I think.
Yeah, I gotta look back.
I talked about a couple evenings during the week too.
Yeah, they're relatively flexible. She had sent me a list of Saturdays, and I don't know if that was just because of the parks projects we were talking about.
Okay. Okay, very good. Ken, have you heard anything else about the community garden? I know they had some vegetables eaten by.
Yes, they brought some vegetables to the last
yeah.
food bank. They brought potatoes, carrots, summer squash. And I know they've also been bringing it to Lincoln Village for their food bank.
Wow. So it's really first year up and it's serving a need already.
Yeah.
Which is pretty.
They did catch a skunk in there on Sunday too.
Did they?
Yeah, because I was playing golf with Mr. Ferry, and he got a call about the skunk in the trap, and he's like, "No, not my problem. Call my wife."
Wow, that's pretty funny. It's not funny, but it is. Well, I certainly glad nobody's picking vegetables on a Monday over there. I'll just say. But Ken, do we have our next?
Yes, July 9th, Park and Rec Firecracker Commission on Disability Events.
So on the July 9th, we had the privilege of being invited by Parks and Rec to have a table at the Firecracker event. I don't know how many people actually stopped by the table. I know that for the first half of the day we were there, we had a very regular traffic pattern of people coming by, asking questions, trying some of the things we had laid out on the table and so forth, which was mostly related to blindness and other information for other sources and resources as well. We did get asked a lot of questions about what COD is and who we are and what we're doing in town. We were able to answer that as well. Second half of the day, we didn't get as much traffic, but I think that's because a lot of the people who were going to stop by were already there at that point. But we still get some right up until the very end at around 5 o'clock or so when we broke everything down. So thank everybody who stopped by. I'm looking forward to participating in it again next year, and hopefully next year finding other ways to expand it and have more involvement even, and have perhaps some other events or some other event related to disability going on at the same time there. Intent. So we'll see what we can do, but thank you everyone. Ken, I don't know if you have any thoughts on it.
No, I spent most of my time with the Historical Commission Society, next to the Historical Commission. No, I did do the splash tank. I think I might have been the only one.
That's right. You were the brave one.
And at some point, the person who was filling the bucket up left, so I had to fill up the bucket myself. So
Oh, gee, the
splash
donkey.
myself. So obviously, I didn't fill the bucket up all the way.
I actually put that was like a lot of people reached out about different things for the event, about, you know, situating things, other things, but the thing I thought about the most was, you know, was splashing the selectmen. And so like next year I was like, we always want to try to keep everybody together, and this year, like, you guys got put on an island, so like it wasn't a lot of traffic in that area. Next year I'm just putting up everybody goes to the food. Yeah, if I keep it up top, then you'll get the traffic, because it was like the first year we did really well
Yeah.
with fundraising for the groups that were there, and this year was like, it just didn't set, it wasn't like the same setup.
You know, I know that we got some money, the Historical Society, because every time somebody came over, I suggested
Yeah,
that the donation go to them. So I don't think it was much money at all.
no, I think all in all, I gotta go back and look at my folder, I think like, it was like $6,
Yeah.
where like last year was 200 and something,
Yeah.
spread out between the groups. But yeah, it's still a young event, it's ever
Yeah.
evolving,
Mhm.
so.
Somebody suggested that those, different tables be up front versus in the back, closer to the food. I'm not sure.
Like this way instead of back here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not my call. You have the music.
well, that's the thing, we actually just talked about this too, it's like, if everybody wants to be closer to the action, so you get more traffic,
Yeah.
then it will be like, oh, well, we couldn't hear anybody talk because of the music.
Yeah.
It's,
Mhm.
you know,
It's
ever
it's a tough
evolving.
Yeah.
One of these years we'll get it right.
And I think the other side of it too is, and this is not a disability comment per se, but you know, the weather was hot, sunny and hot, very hot. And on one level, you think you would get more people out for that way. But on the other level, if it's sunny and hot and they've gone somewhere for the day, they're out of town.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're not coming back.
Yeah, you're at the beach.
So you're at the beach or this or that, you're not gonna come back for anything in town for that matter necessarily, unless it's at night. You know, and then if it's showery, you know, people may come or they say, well, I'm not gonna go out my brain. So you never know.
Mhm.
There's no way of knowing for
All
sure.
right, so we'll just build a dome.
Yeah, we'll build a dome, that's a future
Sure.
conversation.
Can't
That'll
be
be,
hot, can't
that'll
be
be part of the
rainy.
future conversation for the whole area. But, you know,
The
yes,
Strawberry Festival at the Historical Society also had not that much of a turnout. And I don't know if it's because people aren't too concerned about COVID anymore, so they have so many other options to go to.
Yep.
This was like the Firecracker last year was like one of the first events
Mm,
in
right.
town.
Right.
We had a good crowd, I thought. This year it was a little different. Plus, that time of year, a lot of people are on vacation too and stuff. So, but no, it still was successful as far as I'm concerned. But people suggested it'd be closer to the music, closer to the food. They had the same criticism for the Strawberry Festival that we had around the Veterans Memorial. We had all the vendors, and they thought we should have it closer to the food. We didn't do. We sold like half of what we were supposed to sell for Strawberry Showcase. We bought 500. We sold 250.
wow. You know, the other thing, just as a thought for the future, is that I wonder if it makes sense, Kevin, for Parks and Rec to potentially think about changing the hour structure.
Absolutely.
So, and going, you know, starting at 2 or 3 and going to 8 or something like that is what I mean.
If we really want to knock it out of the park, we just gotta get rid of the no alcohol bylaw. Cocktails, and then you get everybody down.
That's true. That's true. But just
Finish it off with an adult band and cocktails, and if
Yes.
you want to see the town come out, that's.
And we can have a kids zone back at the elementary school. There you
Yeah.
go. Yep. That's true. Okay, Ken, our next one, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
New business. What? No, still in the old business. Elementary and middle school events, activities, workshops.
So what I will say with regard to the, and we talked, I kept this under old business because I wanted to just let everybody know that I've been playing phone tag quite a bit with Mr. Pruitt, not Mr. Pruitt, Mr. Superintendent. Rooney, excuse me. I don't know why Mr. Pruitt on my
Yeah.
mind, but anyway, with Mr. Rooney. We're hopefully going to get together. I'm hoping if not the end of next week, the very beginning of the following week, and sit down and have conversations about how to plan events at all of the schools. Because I would like the superintendent's office to be supportive of that. I think it makes a lot of sense. And then also at the same time, we're going to be talking about other activities that COD can be involved in at the schools and how it's important for us to know what his perception of what we can do is. And more than just the physical plans of the buildings, but workshops, activities, and so forth. So that's on our agenda. I imagine it'll be a very long meeting, but I think it'll also make sense for him to reach out to the principals of the schools and let them know what we're looking for and what we want our involvement to be. So stay tuned, but that's where that's at. I would like to know if any of you, when I have my meeting, would like to participate and join me if you're able to. It doesn't need to be just Jonathan, but Nicole, Ken, Kevin, if any of you are able to participate, I think that would be great. So I can let you know when it is.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll have an answer on that. I'm hoping tomorrow.
Is he meeting tonight at the?
Yeah,
Yes, 6:30. 6:30 is the meeting over at the elementary school. Yes. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts. Ken,
No.
Nicole, Kevin.
New business, School Street sidewalk.
So School Street, I'm actually planning to go visit the School Street sidewalk tomorrow morning. Mr. Woods and I are potentially going to visit it first thing in the morning together. And I will take my measurements and my angles, see where we go from it. I have been told by several people that we're probably not going to be happy with it. I don't know that until I see it, so the jury is out. I don't want to get into the weeds on anything until we do. My concern is going to be, to some extent, if it's not conforming to what we needed to conform to, when this was paid for, how it was paid for, was it what was grant was involved, or if a grant was involved, and what was said in the grant about disability or not, or ADA, or separately from that, I will say, with other things that still may be in the way, such as telephone poles or angles, if there were ever any variances filed with the Architectural Access Board. So those are the things that I'm thinking about when I go look at this tomorrow morning to start the process. I'm sure that by the time we have our next meeting, I'll be able to report back on a lot more. I don't know if any of you are available tomorrow morning and if would potentially like to join the process. If you're not, that's fine. It's last minute, and this didn't come about until a couple of days ago, so that we could put time to work together, do it with Mr. Woods. And the reason I'm asking Mr. Woods to participate is because he's brought it to our attention for the neighbors in that area. So right now, weather permitting, which means before the heat sets in, we're planning to meet very first thing in the morning at that location. We'll work out the time this evening. So does anybody have any questions or thoughts?
I can make a dentist. We have dentist appointments tomorrow.
I'll put you to that.
No, very cool.
Yes.
I did drive up and down the street, did get out and walk some of the sidewalks because Mr. Woods actually reached out to me first and then asked me to put him in touch with Jonathan about it. And it is definitely questionable at best. I mean, Jonathan will confirm all the measurements and stuff, but it seems to be another project similar to Center Street where we just, barely made minimums and didn't do our due diligence to kind of, I don't think that we need to go above and beyond to the point where, it's going to cost the town an extreme amount of money to make it right. But I think we could have had a better planning process to make it better. It's odd to me. I drive around a lot of different areas for work all over southeast of Mass and Rhode Island. And most areas, when I see new sidewalks going in, one of the first things that happens is they relocate the telephone poles. But we continue to just pave around telephone poles, and besides even the accessibility portion of it, it looks like crap. Like it doesn't look good in the neighborhood. It just looks like, you slung it in there and boogied out of town, collected your check and went. It's kind of a little bit discouraging.
Well, I think the concern that I have is that, again, I'm going to start with how the funds were allocated and what the request included. I'll start with that and what was mentioned or not mentioned with regard to anything or not ADA that should have been in there. The other side of it is, as well, is if, as you said, the poles are not conforming because of where they are and the walk doesn't conform for the distance on either side around or on the angles, then I think you have to go back not just to the town, but to the contractor. The contractor has an obligation to conform to state code also. So, that's, I don't know anything until I look at it and start with that. I'll start with measurements and then we'll see if the measurements are very close or not. I don't know, for that matter, if anybody in the town has ever gone to the AAB and requested any kind of a variance or a waiver, but I suspect not, but I don't know for sure. So the first thing is just to get the measurements, and then I'll start my increase next week after that, depending upon what I find tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and again, it's not even necessarily COD or ADA coordinator related, but just from a town perspective, maybe it's a conversation that the Board of Selectmen or the town administrator have with the highway department and these construction companies. Is like, I think about it from the perspective of, now you have a pole in the middle of the sidewalk, and one, TMLP, that end of town is TMLP. TMLP is incredible to work with, extremely responsive. If one of those poles fails, it's in the middle of the sidewalk. How do you replace it? If you move them, now you have new poles and you're not as concerned about it. And they're also pushed way outbound towards traffic. So now it's more those streets are tight. Now it's more subject to vehicular accidents. Just, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think
Odd to me.
I think that I think as Mr. Pacheco has alluded to many times in the past in different conversations that he's suggested that when certain departments in town, and I'm not suggesting any department specifically, but when departments are doing different types of construction in town, they should at least let the ADA coordinator know what they're doing so that we can just cursory, even if it's just listening to what's being done and look at a plan and say, yes, no, or maybe you need to move this and do that. There's not a lot of some of these cases where honestly, I as the coordinator need to be involved at all, or the commission needs to be involved. But part of our responsibility is to be able to look at some of these things and advise the town. Some things there's enforcement, but a lot of it's advisory. If they don't give us the information, and Mr. Pacheco's been asking for this for a couple of years now, then we can't be advisory. So maybe, again, as you said, maybe the Board of Selectmen needs to try and reinforce that again.
Yeah, I think in this specific case, we need to find out who funded it.
Yes.
We don't think it was MOD, right? You don't
No,
think
this
so?
was not an MOD funding, no.
Who funded it, and then what were the requirements? And if it is state law, which you said it is,
Yeah,
maybe
it absolutely is.
why didn't they follow through with it?
And this could have been funding that was approved a couple of years ago, but could never was acted on.
So this wasn't part of that shared winter streets?
It wasn't part of that grant, no.
No, okay.
No, it was separate. And that's why I said, I think this may have been, you know, I don't know, this may have been something that was approved quite a while ago, but was never done because of a variety of reasons, maybe because of the working with the utilities, or maybe because of COVID or whatever. I don't know. I think the first thing is just to get the measurements and start with the measurements and then go from there. Go back to town administrator, the highway department, if there's issues, and start to ask the questions then. So I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on that or not. But
No.
I'll certainly let everybody know what my findings are, and if I need to bring in anybody else to, you know, replicate my findings or not. You know, if I'm not sure about something part of it, I can always call MOD. I know they would come in and take a look for us too. And that doesn't add any pressure. It's just something that they offer to do. So if I'm not sure what to do or where to proceed, I can always reach out to them.
I know the town administrator has talked about from now on, we have some issues with the sidewalk in front of the town hall. From now on, any construction, we have to have a pre-construction meeting.
Correct.
And I think obviously you're going to be involved in that. And I'm not sure if this happened after the sidewalk or before the sidewalk in front of town hall was done, but that needs to be addressed.
I don't know.
I think that the sidewalk project was happening the same time because it was the same construction company.
Yeah, and in fact, they were moving on after that makes sense. After they did the walkway at town hall, they were moving on to do the other construction, which is partly, you know, determined when everything is scheduled. But I think that the issues that we need to have these pre-construction conversations really hadn't evolved until we were further into the walkway process, and they probably were done.
No.
So through nobody's fault. It's just a future consideration, and I think we can ask the town administrator to reach out to different departments and remind them again. Yeah. So that's enough said for that, I think.
Next item is the library building committee.
Congratulations, by the way, Mr. Pacheco.
Oh, the whole town.
All of the work, well, the whole town, yes. If you'd like to address the building committee and
Yeah,
how you see its ADA component involvement.
sure. Have anybody spoken to you about that? Yeah.
I've been told that I've been asked to be on it. That's as far as I know so far.
Yes, I believe it was the town administrator told me the members that were going to be on it. You were not mentioned. I asked that you be included. You said, oh yes, he forgot, but you're supposed to be on it. We have not voted, the Board of Selectmen has not voted on this committee. There was a question whether or not we should formally form this committee. I think it should go before the Board of Selectmen. I think we should pick the players so that if there's any meetings that all the stakeholders are involved and they need to be notified. But it's a lot of people. I think it's maybe 9 members that will be on the committee. So it's a pretty big committee, and I indicated to Mike that we don't have to be involved in every meeting, like they have some kind of a small project, that's fine. But you haven't been in the building yet, right? You haven't had any
No, I
talks
haven't
with
physically
anybody.
been in the building at all yet, no.
So right now, the construction is going to be on the outside of the building. They're going to repair the ramp, not replace the ramp, because we don't have the funds for that. So obviously, you're going to have to be involved with that, make sure it's the, this guy, Joe Shea, who's been involved in giving us some guidance on as to the design for a library. I think I've been impressed with what he's talked about, because he's always included ADA requirements. So I think we're going to do fine with him, but we are doing some changes inside the building. More importantly, that putting a ramp to the stage, widening a doorway so that people with wheelchairs can get in, that kind of stuff, and raising the floor because it's like a couple steps. So we're actually going to raise the floor to make it level with the main floor. But you need to be involved in that, and especially when we get to phase 2, when we're talking about an elevator to go to the basement, that kind of stuff. But because they had a meeting, 3 other people had a meeting last week. I wasn't invited. Obviously, you weren't invited. But it was just the beginning of it. So
and there are also a lot of specific regulations around libraries for ADA, as to the amount of the width of and overhead placement of the bookcases can be, for example, and the placement of the turn radiuses around corners to go to different bookshelves. All of that sort of stuff. Those are important because obviously the goal is to manage that space and get as much in there as you can. But it also has to have ADA accessibility in terms of people being able to get to different places in there, even if it's just on the first floors, for example, so that people can move around freely if they have a wheelchair or a walker or things like that anywhere, or different rooms that have meetings or restrooms. So yes, I'm looking forward to being involved.
yeah,
Thank you for making sure that
there's definitely one bathroom that is ADA compliant, and they talked about bookcases being on outside walls, but on the inside have movable bookcases, so that if they ever need to use that room for something, conference, whatever, they can use that room. But they've got some great plans, and the building commissioner's involved in it, Tom Ferry's involved with it, Jocelyn's involved with it, Mike Muller, myself, you. Like I said, it's 9 people, and I think Joe Shea will be involved. But the plan looks good. I'm not an ADA expert. I feel you need to be involved with it, especially when we see problems like the sidewalk. You want to make sure that we don't have to redo anything.
I will say I just completed the next phase of the CAM training a couple of weeks ago, which is a more advanced class of it. And interestingly enough, a significant part of it was devoted to libraries. So not by my design, it's just part of what it was. And part of the reason for that is because a lot of older buildings are now being used and retrofitted to be libraries. So there was a significant time spent what can and can't be. So it's all fresh in my head, at least as much as it can, as much as it can be. But thank you for making sure that we went through it. And thank you and everybody else for all the work that you've all done.
They've done a lot of work. We're going to do the work on the outside at first because it will allow the church to stay there up to 6 months. We can go inside the building where we want, but we have to notify them, which makes sense. And they may go use the old town hall for their masses on Sunday. They're trying to find a place in Dayton to build a new church. They need 4 to 5 acres of land. But in the meantime, it's going to take 4 to 5. It's going to be kind of like a compound that we're talking about. You know how these churches now, they have other buildings. So they want to stay in town, which is great. So the board stuff has suggested to them if you want to use the main Old Town Hall main floor for their mass, they can. It holds up to 100 people. They have a little less than 100 people go to mass. Obviously, they're going to move the crucifix and that kind of stuff when they leave. But I think it's a good opportunity for them. I'm not a big fan of religious groups using town buildings, but this is a unique situation.
Have they identified any site? I'm just curious in town yet?
They have, so I can't reveal it because they're in some negotiations, so we'll see how that works out. But I do think it's going to take longer than 6 months. They're going to be out of there sometime in January, I believe. So it's so whenever we get to go in the building, obviously, Jonathan, you're going to get going. And like I said, the outside is more of the shingling on the outside, blowing insulation, fixing that lamp, stripping some of the paint around the windows. We're not replacing the windows. But we're going to be careful because the historical commission is also involved in this. We can't do much changes. I suggested, because it's cheaper, to put the vinyl shingles, not the clapboards, but the shingles on the outside. It's very expensive to put but it's very expensive to replace cedar shingles, red cedar shingles. But that's been frowned upon, so it looks like we may have to do either clapboard or red cedar shingles, which is going to be expensive. But that's the only way we may be able to get some grants from the state for historical purposes. So it's on its way. It's something to look forward to. Probably 2024, sometime in 2024.
Sounds good.
It'll be open.
Excellent.
Take a little while.
Thank you for the update, and again, for making sure that ADA has a voice at the table in terms of what's going to go on.
It's important.
So,
Next agenda item, I think you addressed it already, is the DR Regional Schools meeting with Dr. Roy.
yes, we kind of touched on that already. Again, I'll let everybody know when it's going to be, and if anybody is able to make it, any three you're able to come, please know that you're invited, for sure.
Yeah, I've been impressed with him. He had a talk on security at the schools a couple of weeks ago at the high school auditorium. And I think he's motivated. I think he is willing to make some changes.
Yeah.
And it's something to look forward to. We'll find out this Saturday whether or not we hope it's going to leave K through 8.
Yeah, and I've seen what he has to say about that as well. He's pretty adamant in his own way about
He
it.
did a great presentation as to why that shouldn't happen, but there's stuff that the voters and they're over. Next is, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Our next agenda item is new grant ideas.
So I wanted to, the reason I put that on there is because we've exhausted the MOD grant for, I'm sure, for a few years. I'm just talking out loud here with no expectation of anything. But I wanted to look at different ideas of different resources that we can go to. I have some ideas of state resources we can go to, and then I'm so used to not hearing sirens around here. You know, it just makes you stop for a minute. And some federal grants that we might want to look at as well. But I'm thinking in terms of grants that can improve some of our public space area for people with disabilities. Again, the playground and the track area at Town Hall. I'd like to potentially consider something along those lines for a long-term project. That would certainly be long-term and involved a significant engineering study and review and thought process and plans and putting a whole team together, almost similar to the library as well, from different people and kind of different voices. I wanted to potentially look at other things that we should be addressing in town. You know, I've been in town for 6 years and I have some ideas, but some of you have been here a lot longer, and I'd like to get some ideas of other things in town that you all think we should address, so that we can look at grants to focus specifically on different areas within the town. So, any thoughts?
I don't have any specific grants in mind. I'm always looking.
Or types of
beyond grants, I think we need to start leaning on our state representatives to start now. We're seeing more and more now of state reps supporting and earmarking funds for improvements like they just did in Fall River, the North Parks ice skating rink.
Yep.
They earmarked a ton of money to improve that ice skating rink. So, and like, not to say that that's not valuable, but I think if we propose a project that's going to make a massive, ADA accessible impact on our town, that they would support it.
I have this, and I think I've shared with one or two of you at different times. For example, I have this vision, if you will, of looking at the community playground at Town Hall, looking at the track area at Town Hall, looking at all of that whole big component of space, and finding a way to make not only the space fully accessible, but to drastically change the look of the entire space, so that it's potentially an environment and a space where we can bring in other programs, where we can bring in Special Olympics for activities and participate, and other groups as well for persons with disabilities or non-disabilities as well, non-disabled groups, to really use all of that space in an active way, and kind of make it a model for this part of the state, for the South Coast part of the state, for people to be able to use the resources there. It generates interest in the town, maybe potentially in other ways it can generate revenue. It might even potentially, certainly could generate different grants, as you said, Kevin, from the Commonwealth or Commonwealth and federal government combined. to do some of these things, and it may even help by working with some of these other private organizations and nonprofits such as Special Olympics, help generate some grant money towards projects related to this space that way. Again, I think I'm just throwing this as one example out there. You know, there are other places in town where we can look at potentially doing, you know, different types of retrofit work or other work that would make us ADA compliant or accessible that aren't right now. And other things that we can visit as well. You know, when we might look at, I know there was a conversation, for example, briefly talking about the other night in the meeting I was at, talking about having lavatories, porta potties at the different fields. And I'd like to see potentially if we can work with some of the different programs in town, baseball, for example, throwing that out there. And if there's things we can do with a small grant of some sort, so that we can purchase porta potties and have them available there on an annual basis, regular basis, with the help of Parks and Rec and other organizations in town that use those facilities, but of course they need to be ADA compliant. We're making all these spaces in our town more ADA compliant by what we've already done and what we're continuing to do. This would just one more step to doing all of that. But I don't know, Ken, if you have ideas or things that you hear about from different residents.
No, but Kevin and I, we attended the trail. You attended the Trails Committee meeting.
I was just going to.
And he talked about that one of the ways to get to the trail is behind Town Hall. So they talked about possibly doing some area. It's so that it's the track, and right behind the track is actually where the trail is going to go.
Yeah.
And they talked about handicap parking close to that. So that could be an entry point, one of the entry points for the trail. So you don't have to start at the beginning, or you have to go to the end or go to Sweet Knolls, but go get it from here. And we talked about different places where to put the handicap park, but I think so this might impact some of the things that you're talking about, because it looks like we may have a paved road going down towards the beginning of the trail, and that could be a handicap parking.
I did put some thought into like that, and actually, if anything, I think that helps us if we evolve that field, because it gives us another point to enter the field from the far end,
Right,
where the library building is now. So I don't think that's going to hurt anything, just to kind of throw out there, because it is a possible accessible path. When I was driving home today, it just kind of clicked, was where I have the courts. One, I have a parking lot that needs to be revitalized anyway. That's not far off from the railroad bridge, where they want to tie in that trail. That's another midway point.
Yeah.
So I was going to reply to that email with, I think it's Jennifer.
Yes, it is.
About that, because I know they're looking at these different points.
Sweet Knolls is another one. They don't, which I agree, they don't want you to be able to drive down, like go through, just dissect the whole park there, because you want it to be natural, all that kind of stuff. So you don't want to put asphalt to get closer to that pathway.
The only concern I had even with that part of it, and I know this digresses a little bit, is I will say Nate was very, very good with regard to the trails meeting that was held about a week ago now. He and I spoke for almost 2 hours the day before.
Yeah,
and he went through all the slides with me. And for those people who don't know, I'm visually impaired. I have no vision. He gave me a really good visual readout of what all the slides, the 15 slides that were being presented were, and how everything was laid out. And he and I were able to talk extensively about any thoughts that I had, just the initial thoughts, at least for ADA concerns and mitigation. And one of the areas that we talked about was Sweet Knolls as well. And we talked about access and the access points. And I remember having a conversation, for example, talked about having a drop-off point because there's a steep slope there.
Well, they actually mentioned all of that. I don't know, Ken, did you bring that up? Somebody brought it up during the meeting about how you had meant, it might have been one of them, about the meandering path to take away the elevation.
Yes.
So he did discuss that with all of us.
Yeah, and then we also talked about even the parking area and the drop-off point, because the drop-off point, then where you go back and park your car, you know, if you're a person who's using a wheelchair or using a walker, for example, you still need to have at least one spot or two spots up at a certain parking point, because you may not be able to traverse the uphill parking lot or downhill parking lot area because of the grade and so forth. So I thought it was the beginning of a great conversation, and clearly they're looking at, you know, what they can do and how they can do to mitigate and to make, you know, the ultimate trail very, very accessible, I think, in many ways. We also talked about other things related to the trail, and this could tie into the grant process as well, again, because we talked about areas where we could put some braille when they have their different storyboard, if you will, in a few spots. having some information in Braille or having a button you press on the side through a solar power battery potential that can give you a verbal readout of what you're seeing visually or looking at visually as well. Or we talked about what other trails have done, which is to create with your telephone. What am I thinking of? We have an app.
Geocaching.
Yes. So that you can go and you can listen to the description of what you're going through and where it is as well. And that could be potentially through a grant process as well. And then, yes, we talked about the track and the area back there, and I shared with Nate my own vision so far that I haven't shared with anybody yet a little bit of what I would like to see that become someday, so that somehow as they look at everything, maybe that's part of the design or built into that as well, to allow for spacing for all of that.
The only hiccup is like, I'd love to see that the field become turf at some point, because it helps a lot of different, even like we have DR youth lacrosse uses it a lot now, and they're like, oh, do you think this could ever be turf? And I'm like, we'd love to see it be turf. Then I have to find somewhere for the cows to poop though.
That would be part of my.
Anything like AstroTurf?
Yeah,
Oh,
real turf. There are a lot. There actually are more and more fields like that are becoming turfed.
Almost everything now is like tracks. Well, obviously a track should be some sort of either composite material.
But
or
the infields are becoming more and more turfed for different places. You know, think of a lot of schools that have the track around the football field, and they're making those areas fully turfed now and so forth. So I agree with you. I have a similar thought process there as well. So I mean, I just wanted to keep it on everybody's radar to start thinking about this. I would like to potentially consider at least putting together a thinking group, if you will, put those thinking caps on that people have, if I have to put it that way. Just sit at school all the time, put your thinking cap on. But put together, start to form a group with different folks in town and others who are interested in being part of a task force to start to look at ways we can improve accessibility in town, or other grants that we might look at as well. So I don't know if anybody has any thought on that, or if everybody's okay with that.
I'm okay with it.
I don't know if we need a motion on that or not. We don't have a subcommittee necessarily yet, but I'd at least like to reach out and see if people are interested in being part of a task force to look into different ideas and concepts and so forth as well, because it's looking at that and grants at the same time. And please, if you have anything, anybody who's going to look at this later too, again, shoot me an email or a phone call and let me know what your thoughts are. And
Committee reports, if time permits. You got that capitalized. Best Buddies update.
Yep.
Kevin,
Best Buddies.
So I'm actually locked out of Best Buddies portal. I can't even get in it. Oddly enough, right? So nothing. I just went to log in one day and I couldn't log in. I forgot my password and I saved all my passwords. Couldn't get in. So then I reached out to Matt, who's been our guy who's kind of set us up and got us moving. Oddly enough, Krista, who was like the very first contact we ever had, and we had the Zoom call with like in the very beginning, reached out, hey, just wanted to check in, how's everything going? Just wanted to let you know Matt's no longer with us. And all that expensive. Can we set up a Zoom call and just catch up? And I was like, oh, thank God. So she had just emailed me late last week. Yeah, I can't even, at this point, I can't even get, I asked her if she could help me get back into the portal, because I don't know why I cannot get in the portal. It says I tried logging in too many times. I tried logging in once and I hit reset
That was
password.
too many.
Yeah, one time too many. So yeah, hopefully she can get me back in the portal so I can see where we're at. Because last time I got in, which is like just prior to Firecracker, so it's been a little while. We were starting to get some people, like it was starting to trickle in a few more applications, mostly folks with IDD. And then I can't even see what's going on. So hopefully she straightens that out. And then also when I do set up a Zoom call with the I'll let all of us know, that way we can all jump on.
That'd be awesome.
And just chat with her, because I'm sure we all have questions.
Yeah. One of the folks was literally just asking me about it today. He was like, what's going on? I was like, I'll let you know.
Well, no, it's fine. There was a couple times like I tried, like, because usually like every once in a while, like if I'm at work or whatever, I'll just jump on and check the portal and see if anybody applied. Because like I actually have to like approve it on the portal to let it jump on the roster so it saves their info. And like, I couldn't get in and I didn't put anything. I was like, no, that's weird. Maybe something's up with my phone. You know, like a week would go by and I'd be like, oh, that's weird. I can't, maybe I'm on the thing. Then I'm like, I know I can get on the computer because that's usually how I do it. And then like, that's when it was like, you're locked out. And I'm like, okay, so this is a problem. And then luckily Krista reached out so we can,
So what you just reminded me of actually too was when I was having a conversation about a week and a half ago with ICI, which is the Institute of Community Inclusion. I was mentioning my idea a little bit that I just talked about a few minutes ago, you know, with the track and the playground and everything like that, and having a very full inclusive environment and making this area something that different organizations in the area can utilize as well, such as Special Olympics, and wanting to know, I was basically asking any ideas, any resources, and the first response I got was nothing's been done yet like this anywhere in Mass, but let me look into it. And the next email I got was just a couple of days ago, and it was Jonathan. Good news. There is discussion about a full plan for a similar facility like this in the Boston area already, based on a sports figure, and I forget who right now would be named after a sports figure from one of the Boston teams. And this would be in the Boston area. This has high hopes. I'm going to connect you with these folks, blah, 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 so that you can work with them and potentially, you know, get some more information from how they're doing it and how they're going about it. So, which would be great. So I will connect us all with that as well. I know I sound vague, and I am vague because I don't remember it. It's been having a brain freeze. But I think it would be good to see if there's some hope for another organization and where the dollars are coming from and the grants and the resources, and how they're going about putting all this together to make it fully inclusive. It would be great to see what they're doing and to be as involved as we can. So I will let everyone know where that's coming at going forward. Are you going to say something? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
Next item is review of town policies.
My bad. I haven't done anything on that in the past month, and I didn't in the previous month either. Unfortunately, my private stuff has gotten the better of me, but I pulled it up yesterday, started reviewing it, and when I go home tonight, I'm going to work on it tonight and tomorrow over the weekend, and hopefully by the time we have our meeting next time, I really will have something to present to everybody.
Yeah, what we had talked about, this is a couple of months ago, was not to go through every policy, but maybe to come up with something
That's universal.
that's universal,
Yeah.
all the policies.
Yes. So, yeah. And that's what I really want to do is just look at everyone and make sure some of them already have language that covers part of what would be needed. And I think it's really just looking at a policy that covers everything that's going on with regard to different committees, commissions, groups, organizations of what they should do or what they shouldn't do and how they should be reaching out. So that there's a universal, almost like a universal announcement, if you will. And that would be made verbally and also be part of written policy for each of the policies. It would be at the bottom or the top, wherever it might be. So it's just a matter of me being honestly putting time into it. And then coming back to you as well, because you were working on that.
But you were doing the work. You were doing the work.
Yeah,
I was sitting next to you. You were doing the work.
Okay, well, the two, okay, whatever way you want to put it.
Yeah.
I'm coming back to you anyway.
Yeah. Oh, we do have a policy committee in town. I don't believe it's been active for a couple of years now, so we
No.
probably have to at some point maybe find out who's on that committee now.
Or if it needs to be reactive.
React.
Yes. Reactivated.
Review and approve minutes for June 9th.
you guys all that?
Yes, thank you.
I did listen to the minutes. Thank you very much, as always, for getting them out. I don't have any objections or any changes to be made. Does anybody else? Otherwise, I'll make a motion. Okay, I will make a motion that we approve the minutes completed by Kevin Smith Jr. for June 9th, 2022. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? No discussion. I'll call it for a vote. Kevin?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
Jonathan stepping down? Aye. Ayes have it unanimously. Thank you all very much.
Next item is set next 3 meeting dates. Now, we already have those.
We already did. I just keep that on there all the time.
Yeah.
We know when it's going to be.
It's the second, if I'm correct, it's the second Thursday of each month.
That's correct. And in September, that would be the 8th.
Is it the second or?
Well, actually,
Yes,
it's the
this is
first.
the first.
It's the first, but I was going to say the first one is on Thursday the 1st, Thursday the 1st, which is just before Labor Day. I don't know if anybody has any plans to be away or not. If not, we can do it that way, or we can change it to the second Thursday for September, but I thought I would just double check with it.
I'll be available.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Okay, and I will have,
So it's the first Thursday. Okay.
I'm sorry?
It is the first Thursday. Right.
Yeah, the first is a Thursday, because for anybody who doesn't know, school in Dayton starts on Wednesday the 7th.
Oh.
There you go.
All right, yeah, so we'll have 9/1, 10/6, and then 11/3.
Yes. Yeah. And because we are not live, unfortunately, I cannot ask for public input.
Well, no, we'll live via Zoom.
Okay.
If anybody.
Okay, I didn't know that we were active on it. I didn't realize that, but is there anybody on Zoom?
Nope, we don't have anybody with us.
Okay.
And with that, I will make a motion to adjourn
At,
5:24.
so at 5:24, I hope this is early enough for you. If not, I apologize.
No,
It's
no.
time to go on. Make a motion, we adjourn at 5:24 p.m. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Nicole has seconded it. We'll call for a vote. Nicole?
Aye.
Kevin?
No,
All right, well, that's okay. You can stay if you want. Jonathan stepping down, yes, we have it anyway.
we have never, ever not had a unanimous vote. I just wanted to break it up once.
Okay.
I had to do it.
Probably shut up, so. Yes, we're going on vacation next Wednesday. Tomorrow. Granddaughter's gonna play tomorrow.